Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Greetings, race fans, and welcome to Apex Racing TV's presentation of the Radical Esports Cup. J.R. Gregory here on the call. Beside me in the commentary booth, Tom Dillon, and in the production carrier, our friend and colleague, Joshua Wilkie. And the star of today's show, the Radical SR10, 425 horsepower, only 725 kilos. No traction control, no anti-lock brakes. And folks, we are showing the top split of the public server here, 2100 GMT, as we do every Friday. So this is not a league event, not a private event. If you would like to give these radicals a whirl and appear with us here on Apex Racing TV, all you have to do is sign up and land in the top split. And as I say every week, these cars are a handful. Mastery of the SR10 will make you better at every car that you drive. And listen to this upcoming schedule, including tracks such as Imola, Mount Panorama, Interlagos, Mossport, Barber, Sebring, Road America, and put an asterisk by this one, folks, Green Hell under the stars as we wind up the season. So this week, week 4, Watkins Glen, the village of Watkins Glen, New York, located at the southern tip of Seneca Lake, upstate. The first races in this area were on public roads in the late 40s. Permanent circuit opened here in 1956, and over the past almost 70 years, the Glen has played host to Formula One, IMSA, NASCAR, IndyCar, and Trans Am racing. Today's configuration, 3.4 miles, 5.5 clicks, 11 corners. The record was 1:23.9 set by Seb Bourdais in 2017 in a DW12 IndyCar. And if you're curious, the current LMDH record was set by a Cadillac prototype last year. That's about 10 seconds off that IndyCar record. So fantastic track here this week, Tom. We're going to see a couple of things that can produce some really exciting racing in these radicals. They're really good at these high-speed corners with their mechanical grip and the downforce that kind of kicks in going a little faster, and are obviously going to see some significant draft action there on that front straight, and maybe some conflicts on the entry, difficult entry to the bus stop. So what are you expecting out of these drivers today?
Yeah, well, I'm expecting much the same as last week, JR, in that we're going to get a lot of overtaking, and we're going to get a situation where the drivers have got a really good chance to overtake. You know, the back straight is huge around this circuit. The bus stop chicane is such a big overtaking opportunity, then I'm sure the drivers will be aware of that, and it's pretty close in qualifying as well, so expecting that to continue into the race. Frederick at the moment 139.6, only a tenth of a second faster than Hernandez, Barry and Gonzaga, only 0.2 of a second off each, and actually Barry only about 100th of a second off of Hernandez. In any case, we're on board with Franco Sanchez. He makes his way through the final corner as Gonzaga goes fastest. I should say. Franco Sanchez will cross the line. It looks like it will be an improvement for him. Not a huge improvement though. In fact, no, he won't improve, but Sorensen will, and Hernandez will as well. So Sorensen goes to the top of the order. That's a fantastic lap.
Yeah, they are cooking, and I did a couple laps out here this afternoon and was feeling pretty good about getting into the 41s, which I figured was going to be about 2 seconds off of these guys, which has turned out to be the case. And let me just run through the season top 10 here so far in week 4. James Berry has picked his way back up to the top. He's a past champion of the Radical Esports Cup. Andreas Friedrich and Paki Caruso will round out the podium. Then Bruno Vitorino, Rafa White, Marco Weaver, Heinz Braun, Solly Reitinen, Jorge Gonzaga, new in the top 10 this week, and Lasse Sorensen, also new in the top 10. And taking a look at our timing tower, a number of those top 10 drivers are out here, as they typically are, for our 2100 GMT Friday broadcast here on Apex Racing TV. So buckle up, folks. You are going to see some of the very best esports drivers in the world, at least in terms of people who can wheel these radicals, and it should be really a fantastic race. And another thing I did notice, Tom, it's tempting and feels kind of safe to ride the understeer through some of these long corners, but probably not sustainable throughout the whole race. So we may see some front tire wear rearing its ugly head here as the race wears on. So we'll keep an eye out for some of that for you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think one of our drivers was chatting last week, I think, about how his car was experiencing a little bit of tire wear towards the end of the day, and I wonder if that is going to be the case here, especially a track like Watkins Glen. But we have got the checkered flag in qualifying, so JR, we can go to your grid.
All right, and as the cars line up, here is our starting grid, and Sorensen, you just heard his name, just entered into the top 10 on the season. He is going to be your pole sitter with that smoking 139.2, and I'm here to tell you that he was taking some risks, banging that Radical over the curbs in the bus stop, so we'll see a lot of that today. But great lap by Sorensen. Next to him, Andreas Friedrich. In the next row, it's Hernandez next to Gonzaga. James Berry will be in P5 with Solly Reitinen next to him. It's Christopher Tavernen in P7, not a familiar name to me. Good to see some new participant here. Matt's, we'll call him Matt's G for today. In 9 and 10, that's Gabriel Berger and Robert Woodward. Kyriakopoulos in 11, Franco Sanchez in 12, Mika Hulkinen next to Samir Kadura in 13 and 14, and Hesterman and Al-Sarami will be in 15 and 16, and picking up the rear there in P17 will be Allen. And as we're ticking down here, we're waiting for the grid to fill. Looks like there's a couple of empty spots. And if you're just joining us for the first time, that's right, these Radicals are going to have a standing start. So they'll be taking off from a standing start on ice cold tires. And again, no traction control. So it can be a challenge to get these things moving. So we'll keep an eye on the start for you. And here is Sorensen's view. He's looking down the front straightaway, and he will have the inside line into turn 1. So as we wait for the lights to tick down, we're still ticking. Looks like we've got about 20 seconds left and a couple cars missing. But yeah, we'll be looking for some action here on cold tires into turn 1. And again, it can get pretty hectic, that entry into the bus stop, when that is contested, which it will be numerous times today. It goes from a very wide track into a tight little funnel to snake your way through that bus stop. And here are the lights. We are going to go green momentarily, and that is it. We are green. We'll watch Sorensen come off the line. Looks like Sorensen is going to get off clean. It's or Friedrich edging ahead here. Is Friedrich going to beat him down the outside into turn one? No, Friedrich is going to back out of that one, so it's going to be Sorensen from Friedrich from Hernandez. James Berry and Solly Reitinen have both jumped. Jorge Gonzaga, who's fallen to P6. Then it's Mats G, followed by Tverlin and Gabriel Berger. Kyriakopoulos also gets past Woodward to round out your top 10. And there's still some side-by-side action coming up the S's here. And here we go. As I was thinking, 2 and maybe 3 wide entering the bus stop. And oh my goodness, what trust and what excellent car control there. And you see a car taking a cut there. That is going to be a slowdown. And that driver is going to fall like a rock. That is Sorensen, your pole sitter, who went into the grass there. And that is going to cost him a couple of positions, putting Andreas Friedrich into the lead.
Yeah, so Friedrich has the lead ahead of familiar face James Barry, but Barry under a little bit of pressure from Leon Hernandez here in the number 7 car as they head down into the right-hander. So pretty comfortable stuff for Andreas Friedrich at the moment. Still waiting to see if James Barry can hold on to this second position under a lot of pressure from Hernandez here as they go down into the next right-hander. Has a little bit of a look to the inside line. Barry moves off to cut off that inside line. Does a pretty good job in the fence. And I have to say, we're not quite taking the NASCAR interpretation of track limits here, JR, but I have noticed a lot of the drivers taking a pretty interesting, how do I word it, interesting interpretation of how far they can run out of the curve. So that suggests that maybe the track limits aren't that strict around this track.
Yeah, certainly there are a number of places that you are driving well into the green coming around Watkins Glen, and it looks like Reitinen has crashed out of P2. That got by us somehow, but yeah, he has binned it and is in the pits. So we're going to have Josh pull that up and see what happened to Reitinen. Did those bumpy curbs in the bus stop claim their first victim, taking him right out of the podium up there in P2 as we're riding along now with Sorensen looking ahead at Hernandez and Barry now side by side. Goes right down the middle. Oh my goodness, that could have ended in disaster. That was nuts. Sorensen gets through and is going to force Hernandez wide there. And my goodness, I don't know if that counts as a jinx, but I was certainly predicting some conflicts at the entry to the bus stop. And holy cow, it's unfolding already on lap 2 of 16.
Yeah, it's a silly move really to go up the middle of those two drivers. Not the most orthodox decision making from Lasse Sorensen, but he just about made it work. We have got a replay of Sorensen's incident. Here we can go. The nice little transition on the screen. Sorry, Reitinen's incident. And by the looks of things, we've seen how it ended. Haven't quite seen how it started just yet, so stand by. We'll get that for you in a moment. There he is going back across the track, and this should be a little bit more information for us. Ratinen, the blue car just in the background, into the chicane he goes, gets it on the curb, and the curb is very bouncy around this track, and that's a sizable hit to the rim.
Yeah, Reitinen suffering the consequences there. And with this rescan, Tom, they've smoothed out those curbs quite a bit into the bus stop, and the curbs are now part of the racing surface to get a good line through there. So 4 wheels on the entry and across all 4 curbs there on the bus stop. And from my practice today, I can tell you that when you're going fast through there, bouncing over the curbs, the Radical is very bouncy and unstable. It doesn't really like it, but it's a risk that you have to take to put down hot lap times. And we'll ride along with Berger here for a moment and see what path he chooses through here. But it's a little straighter, the path through here, than it looks initially. And yeah, we'll see him cut that curb, cut the next one. You see that Radical bouncing. He's back on the gas, and my goodness, it takes some stones, Tom, to do that for 16 laps in a row. You do it once or twice and feel lucky you got away with it, and these drivers are going to be doing it here all afternoon.
Robert Woodward trying to put a little bit of pressure on Kyriakopoulos as they go down into the next sequence of corners. He actually took him behind for the time being, as we see a move from Johannes Hesterman, another name that I don't think I've seen around here so far this season. He's getting past Kadura and moves up into 12th position. He's trying to chase after now Al Sarami potentially for 11th and trying to get himself into those top 10 spots. We're on lap 3 of 16, so still plenty of running to go in this race, and Dennis Karakopoulos is under an increasing amount of pressure from Woodward here as they head up into the top part of the circuit. This around turn 8, turn 9, as I think they go through turn 9 here, don't they, and into turn 10 and 11. Well, that's turn 10, and then we go into turn 11 now, the final corner of the track. Woodward can't really set himself up for much of an opportunity. Might be a chance for Hulkinen, as we see that gap at the lead of the race. Pretty sizable for Frederick at the moment, 1.8 seconds, JR.
Yeah, Friedrich looking good, and he's built that gap in a hurry. There's been a couple of kerfuffles behind him, and one of them was Sorensen barging through Barry and Hernandez there on the entry to the to the bus stop, and Josh is going to show us that one. I'm still in a little disbelief that did not end in disaster, and my goodness, threading the needle early in the race. Tires maybe not even completely warmed up there, as Sorensen eager to get back those positions that he lost, taking the little off and slow down that he had on the first lap. My goodness. But yeah, you're right, Tom. Friedrich has built a really nice gap. It's almost 2 seconds now, and has also put down the fastest lap of the race. So Friedrich taking advantage of what was handed to him, and he's putting down some heaters to try to get away.
Yeah, 1.8 seconds is a huge gap in radicals, isn't it? I mean, so often we see 8 tenths of a second, and we say actually he's pretty comfortable heading into the last lap of the race, and Frederick has really started to build that gap a tenth of a second faster than Sorensen over the course of the race, 2 tenths of a second faster than Barry over the course of the race. It's really been quite an impressive little run for him so far. However, we're not even, well, we've just approached quarter distance in this race, so plenty of time for that to change at some point in the next 10-20 minutes or so, and Sorensen, I would imagine, will be waiting to pick up the pieces of whatever does happen to Frederick in this race. And meanwhile, Barry goes fastest in the race. Hernandez immediately going even faster than that. So all of a sudden, it's not Frederick setting the pace. He might be faster than those around him, but he's not immediately setting the pace.
Yeah, and Barry reeling in Sorensen here, and the draft on these radicals are huge. We're going to watch it in effect right now as they come out of the S's. Watch that gap on our timing tower dropping as Barry gets closer and closer to Sorensen on the entry to the bus stop as they bounce over those curves. They're back on full power right now. Then they ease out of it, little patience, and then feet on the throttle back around the carousel here. And Barry all over Sorensen, and Sorensen's got to be looking behind. He'd feel a lot better if he could stretch that gap up a little bit so that Barry couldn't take advantage of the draft on the straightaway. But so far, no luck as Barry hounding him.
Still trying to wrestle that second position away, but it's been so difficult for him that second position away. However, it's been so difficult, not as easy as it was last time out for James Barry, who's had some really fantastic drives in this season, and at the moment it's about 6 tenths a second, that gap between the two of them, which means they are free to race. If they do get close to each other, they're not going to be under pressure from anyone behind, so that's good news. But I do wonder if maybe James Barry and Sorensen here will be thinking about the bigger picture, JR. Maybe thinking, actually, 1.6 seconds to Frederick. He's gone down a little bit in the last couple of laps. Let's just work together for a little bit, use that slipstream to our advantage, and maybe start to pressurise him towards the end of this race.
Yeah, absolutely. And Barry certainly does have a nice gap back to P4, and I'm ready to take a swing at that. I'm going to say it's just Strumbachen there in P4, who has moved up 4 positions from his qualifying position in P8. Almost the hard charger, but that is now going to go to Al Sarami, who's currently running in P11, up 5 positions. And here's Mats Strumbachen, and he is sneaking around. He wants to get a piece of Hernandez here, and they are... Oh, and there he goes. Oh, my goodness. And Strumbachen Strumbacked it right into the barrier there, and I think he is going to take a tow. That was a huge impact, very similar to the one that put Reitinen into the pits. And, yeah, no motion there from Mats, and that is it. Mats has stuffed it, and, man, I'm telling you, folks, you have got to bounce over those curbs to get a fast lap here, and it is hairy every time, and we'll see him here. Gets the wrong bounce, the back end of that radical comes off the ground, and then it's all over. And Strumbachen Look at that steering. Yeah, that's not the way that Radical left the factory, to be sure. So now we've got 2 cars binned in an action-packed race. Lap 6 of 16 now.
And I wonder there what's causing this bouncing issue. Are drivers just turning in a little bit too early? Are they maybe, or is it more random than that? I'm not really sure. I haven't seen comparative onboards between all the laps of the drivers, but I can see the Kadura is starting to put a lot of pressure on Al Sarami. Again, another one of the names you haven't really seen so far in this season. Obviously, Kadura, a name that we have seen a little bit over the course of the last couple of weeks or so, and now it's really starting to put that pressure on for the 10th spot into turn 1, though. He's going to have to tuck in behind, so he'll be on the run down into the bus stop chicane. Then he starts to make his move as he blinks in and out of existence for a moment. Actually, Hesterman might want to put a bit of pressure on him, is he? He's back now as now battle for 5th position as Berger gets through. Yeah, Berger getting overtaken
again, and you see those Radicals banging over those curbs. Holy cow! It is so nerve-wracking, folks. And yeah, you see a couple of trains starting to form here as we watch Tavares in there sniffing around the back of Berger. He's got that gap down to about 2/10. And not too far back to Kyriakopoulos, Hulkinen, and Woodward. And these tracks with the long straightaways, strong draft, these trains tend to form up, and we're seeing a couple of them assembling right now. Meanwhile, up front, Friedrich still holding a 1.5 second gap as we ride along with Tavares there. Oh, we're getting so close to Berger, almost getting a little smooch there, and it'll be interesting to see what he does on the front straight. He's definitely going to be within striking distance with that toe once they get out of turn 1 and through the S's.
And starting to make that Radical look really, really wide is Berger, but he's going to be under another bit of pressure here down into turn 1. He's in the slipstream, and I think he's got the run as well. It'll be interesting to see if he can get to the inside line. I don't think he can. He's going to set himself up for the run out of turn 1, clearly, but certainly had a little bit of a run down that back straight, or down that pit straight. Now on to this straight. See on board with this driver, the Norwegian, heading his way through. Christopher Travaille trying to get himself to the inside line. You'd think has to go to the outside. He's shown the way by Berger, and to the outside line he goes. The question is, can he get on the brakes late enough? It won't matter because he's managed to get himself ahead before the braking zone. A fairly easily made move for Christopher Travaille, and honestly, I think it was one of those that made it look easy. Here is Samir Kadura trying to get himself through, but has to tuck in into the bus stop. That was very sketchy for a moment.
Wow, great camera angle there from Josh, showing that perilous entry. That's really the tough spot. It's that's kind of your entry point. It's a funnel to get you set up for the exit, which you can actually straighten out pretty well. But you see those Radicals kind of bouncing madly over that first curb, and it is tough stuff. And these drivers really showing what they're made of, being able to keep those cars under control. And here is Hesterman looking forward at Kadura and heading down sort of in the boot right now. Must be heading into the heel of the boot. A little disorientated here for a moment. Oh no, coming around the toe and coming back onto the main portion of the track. Very tough spot right here as the camber changes through that left-hander, and we're about to head into turns 10 and 11 onto the front straight.
Hesterman now putting a little bit of pressure on himself on Kadura, who's actually fallen off the back a little bit of that train that he was fighting. Sanchez and Al Sarami both battling it out between themselves for that 10th spot, and Kadura under so much pressure. Hesterman again out of turn 1. That's where he's going to try and make this move, and he gets the run immediately on the exit of the corner. Got to get alongside now. That's the next option here, I'd imagine. He'll look to the outside line, so he's going to have that racing line as they head into the chicane. Berger repasses Tavares. That's on this lap. Now we stay on board with Johannes Hesterman to see whereabouts he can place that car. He's on the outside line. I think he's just been a little bit uncommitted there. Hasn't quite been able to force his way through on that inside line. Has to stay behind for another lap.
Yeah, a little surprised by that, and I think we've seen on a couple laps, even though these drivers are closing down on the front straight heading into turn one, haven't seen anybody take a peek there, and it looks to me like they're backing out of it and just trying to preserve that gap and trying to get a run on the back straight there. But you certainly can stick it inside of turn one there, and we've seen it happen. So we may see that yet as this one unfolds. Lap 9 of 16 now, and still the same story up front. It's Friedrich from Sorensen, from Barry, from Hernandez, from Berger, and Friedrich still enjoying about a 1.6 gap that has not really changed over 5, 6, 7 laps here. So Friedrich driving very comfortably here, not under much pressure, and does not has been able to keep Sorensen out of his draft so far. And Sorensen not so lucky. He's going to have Barry right on him. That's about a 0.4 gap now as they head onto the back straight, and that will definitely pull Barry forward and put him in a position to make a move here. But will he, and or will he elect to back out of it and maybe save it for another time? And it does look to me like he may be backing out of that a little. Gap not really coming down as we're used to seeing here on the back straight.
And James Barry, also not a driver who's really been able to assert himself in that braking zone. Gabriel Berger falls back behind. So an interesting battle between these two drivers over 3-4 laps or so. Sanchez getting past Al-Sarabi as well inside of the top 10 position. So Gabriel Berger will be a little bit annoyed that he hasn't really been able to get and stay past Christopher Travaille. And I think Christopher will probably be feeling exactly the same. Lap 10 of 16. We're actually 16 minutes into this race, and we've got a replay of the pass that Christopher Travaille made. How different is this to the first time he got around? This is second or third, and actually he goes to the outside line, and it's almost an exact carbon copy. So he's just carrying so much more speed down the straight, and unfortunately Berger's not really got too much to say about it.
Oh my goodness. And again, great camera work by our producer, Josh. I love watching these radicals make their way through the bus stop in a way that can only really be described as careening, Tom. I mean, they are on the ragged edge of control every time through there. It's just spectacular.
It is. It's really, really good stuff. And he's got him. He's got his number a little bit, and a mistake out of the final corner isn't going to help Berger at all. So I think that battle might just be done for a little bit of time here, and we'll hopefully see Travaille start to build a bit of a gap and maybe start to pressure the top four. It's a while for him. Meanwhile, Hulkinen can start to try and do what he can against Kurakopoulos. He's actually having a pretty good run here up to 7th position. You know, you see 17 people on the grid, you think maybe a run up to 7th position isn't that impressive. He's under pressure though from Hulkinen onto the outside line. Hulkinen surely will try and find a way through here. It's a good defensive performance from Kurakopoulos on that inside line. He holds on to that 7th position. And as I was saying, he might be in 7th position, but if I'm not mistaken, he was further behind in for a brief moment in this race. So actually to get himself back up to 7th position in the top split and to start to pressure 6th and 5th, that's a good run.
Oh yeah, Hulkinen looking good. I'm actually looking at our timing tower. It looks like he's up 5. So Hulkinen putting on a good drive here, and looking forward at Kyriakopoulos, who bravely slammed the door on his face on that entry to the bus stop, and really didn't give Hulkinen the opportunity to take that outside entry and beat him to the second apex in there. So it's a lot of racecraft involved in just that little tight segment of the track. And now, oh, who is this? That is Woodward now sniffing around behind Hulkinen. So we got a nice little battle between these three, fighting over P7 like it's P1. And that's something that we see in these radicals each and every week. These guys are always fighting and doing their best, no matter where they are in the order.
And speaking of no matter where they are in the order, Kudura has got past Hesterman, or actually stayed past Hesterman, and Hesterman now trying to get back at him. He'll go side by side down into turn 1. That's unusually aggressive. They are running 13th or 12th and 13th. Their numbers suggest 13th and 14th. So these drivers right on each other's skill, and I believe Kudura makes a bit of a mistake out of turn 1. That's not going to give him the most favourable run. We'll see what Hesterman can do here as they go down that back straight into the bus stop chicane. He's right in the slipstream, needs to get to the inside line though. That's not really the move he's been able to make so far in this race, and once again he stays behind. That looks intentional to me, JR. I don't know if you're going to agree.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't know if it's lack of confidence or biding his time for a later lap, but he definitely had plenty of velocity there from the slipstream, and the inside was open. He just elected not to try to stuff it in there. A little surprising, but there's a number of approaches that drivers can take on this. And then we're going to go back to Hulkinen and Kyriakopoulos. They have changed positions a number of times in the last lap, and here they are side by side coming out of the S's with Woodward sniffing around behind. And I think this is what I saw in my timing tower. They were kind of trading noses back and forth, almost go through there side by side. Hulkinen is going to stick it through first as Kyriakopoulos backs out and into the grip of Woodward potentially. So those three putting on a really nice show for us here today. And there are the three of those cars. We're going to hop up to Berger now, looking forward to Varen, and that is about a 0.7 second gap. He's probably going to get a little tow, but may not get pulled up into striking distance here. Lap 13 of 16 still sees Friedrich from Sorensen from Barry up front.
And crucially, Sorensen goes faster than than Frederick and Barry for that matter on the last lap of the race. 0.2 of a second faster than Frederick. It's not enough to catch up at the moment, but it's putting that pressure on Frederick that he needs to keep it smooth in the last couple of laps of this race. Barry is right on the tail of Sorensen as well. So they have been sort of playing this work together game. We'll see if there's any move forthcoming now that looks a little bit less likely. But my point is that Frederick is not going to be able to rest right here, and it says a lot. 1.6 seconds is a big lead if you're able to keep it on the racetrack. If you make any little mistake, that can come down, and the second they get into that sort of slipstream range, that's when it really starts to be quite dangerous here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you, at the risk of cursing Andreas there in P1, he does flog that car with abandon, and we have seen some late race errors out of Friedrich from driving hard and running out of tires toward the end, and we're kind of getting into the danger zone of that potentially happening. But look at that gap, Tom. It's still sitting at 1.5 as it has been, despite the fact that Sorensen has lit the wick a little bit, set the fastest lap, and has given Barry a tow along with him. Barry's fast lap only a couple of hundredths off of Sorensen, so they should be closing, but running out of time in a hurry. Only 3 laps left.
Exactly, and you can see that gap on the live timer, on the pictures, as Barry is closed off a little bit here by Sorensen. That was very aggressive, almost a little bit too late actually, moving across there to defend the position, but just about fair enough, and it keeps James Barry behind.
Yeah, that was certainly on the ragged edge here, and we're going to take a look at Al Sarami. Is that Al Sarami looking at Kadura there? And heading into the bus stop, and I just can't help but laugh and watching those cars bouncing across that curb, folks. They're going well over 100 miles an hour, and what the downforce generated by these radicals only really happens when that front splitter is close to the pavement, and every time they bounce over the curbs, it breaks that aerodynamic seal against the track. And we've seen 2 cars bin it there for that reason, so they are rolling the dice, bouncing through there on every lap, and I'd love to see it. Fantastic racing today.
There has been some really fantastic racing, and it continues here as here goes Al Sarami under a little bit of pressure now from Johannes Hesteman. Looks to the inside line. Hesteman on that outside line is able to hold firm, so actually reverse what I just said, as here we see Al Sarami back on that outside line. Big movement in the battle for the lead as well, by the way. I'll get to that in a moment, but for the time being, Hesteman is under so much pressure and is victim to a fantastic Al Sarami move on that outside line. Meanwhile, James Barry goes fastest in the race, 1:39.0. And actually, I can tell you that the last lap time for Andreas Frederick was his fastest lap of the race. The top 2 changing positions. James Barry now on the inside line. He set the fastest lap of the race and now gets himself into second position, so he'll have something to show about it. Now just the 2 laps, the lap and a half really to go to try and catch up. 1.9 seconds up to the lead of the race. Look at those lap times.
Yeah, holy cow. And you could kind of see that coming. Barry biding his time. You know that he had some opportunities under the draft there a few times and finally decided on lap 15 that it was time to leave Sorensen behind and see what he could do about Friedrich. But Friedrich still, it's like he has a force field bubble around him. He's got that gap up to 1.9 seconds now, and we really haven't seen it appreciably go down during this race, Tom. And we're looking at a replay now of Barry getting that run out of the S's. He's going to have the easy inside move here into the bus stop, and Sorensen is just going to back out of it and tuck in behind, discretion being the better part of valor there. But Barry, you could kind of see that one coming, and Barry finally executes and is now looking ahead to Friedrich and what could be an insurmountable 1.9 second gap now, as you see Barney there flagellating that flag. Friedrich has taken the white flag. It's Friedrich from Barry, from Sorensen, from Hernandez, from Berger is your top 5. And Friedrich just needs to keep it on the track here for one more lap, and he is going to take the checker. And what a drive by him.
It's a very sensible drive, hasn't it? He's been under so much pressure, knowing that if he makes a little mistake, that brings the other two into the fight, but he's controlled it very, very well, and it has helped that Sorensen and Barry have been battling, and Sorensen will still try and attack Barry here as Hesterman gets back past Al Sarami. That's a big move in the late stages, and then Berger and Trevian also battling along. Trevian getting back past on this lap. Woodward past Kyriakopoulos as well, but for the time being, looks like Barry has held on to second position. This is Christopher Trevian, and now this is Al Sarami trying to get himself back past, goes to the inside line, looks to the underneath of the racetrack. They'll be side by side all the way up into the bus stop chicane. There's a third car in the background. That's Gonzaga trying to get involved. He sneaks to the inside line, gets past Hesterman as well. That's a fantastic piece of driving.
Wow, Gonzaga following. Oh my God, following the other car through. What a move by him. And Hesterman right now wondering what the heck just happened to him. And he got double smoke there going into the bus stop. Fantastic driving by everybody involved. And I'm going to have to bookmark that Al Sarami outside pass coming out of the boot. That might be my move of the race. But meanwhile, here is Friedrich coming out of turn 11 for the last time, and he is going to take the win. Friedrich very strong in these radicals. We always see him toward the pointy end of the field, but I can't really remember the last time I saw him in P1. So great move by him. And here is Gonzaga now, and also Rami. Oh my goodness, ending in tragedy. 3 cars wadded up there. Oh my goodness, coming out of the boot, and that is such a tough corner, folks. You see the track is nice and flat there in the background of that shot, and the side road coming up out of the boot is coming uphill, and there's kind of a little lip there where the camber drastically changes. Really easy to turn there, and that got the better of somebody. We'll get another look at that, but that may have been one car turning and causing catastrophe for the two along with it, and that is too bad for Al Sarami because he's been fighting like a madman today. And here's your replay.
That was it's just awful, isn't it, in the sense that I don't necessarily see anyone at fault. I'd have to see the angle again just to sort of get an idea of who's at fault. Here we go. This is what happened. That they stayed side by side. It seems like a difficult incident, almost like there's 2 into 1 didn't go. This is obviously the move that was made. That's that's so opportunistic. It's fantastic. It really is. That it's an example of just opportunistic driving, and that's the best way that you can improve your racecraft, just being a bit opportunistic. So here you go. On the inside line, so El Sarami is on the outside. He's holding on. Now he just misjudges the inside, doesn't he? There's so little in it, JR, that you don't want to call him at fault, but he sort of is. I mean, the driver on the inside line's got a bit of understeer, I think. Al Sarami has not necessarily given him enough space, but he's misjudged his line, and I'd call that a racing incident, honestly.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It's very, very close. But as I said, the cars are so unsettled when they come up out of the boot onto the old section of the track there, and just the slightest little tap there enough to turn them. And unfortunately, 3 cars, must have been Hesterman, Allen, and Al-Sarami wadded up there as Gonzaga drives away unscathed out of that battle. But my goodness, what a race today. Oh my gosh, we have not been to the Glen since I've been calling these, and I just could not stop giggling watching these radicals bang over those curbs. That was absolutely nuts, Tom. Absolutely. And my goodness, Josh will have our results up for us in just a moment. Woo!
Yeah, well, let's take a look at our results then. A really entertaining race that sees Andreas Frederick get the better of James Barry, even though James Barry had the superior pace in that race, as proven by fastest laps. It still was not enough to finish any less than 2 seconds slower, 2 seconds behind Andreas. Lasse Sorensen battled hard with James Barry, but lost out on the final couple of laps with Leon Hernandez in 4th, Christopher Travayan making up the rest of your top 5. Very hard fought 5th for him. Gabriel Berger is in 6th position with Mika Hulkonen in 7th. Dennis Karakopoulos is 8th with Robert Woodward and Franco Sanchez, the rest of your top 10. Samir Kadora had a very busy race in 11th, getting ahead of Jorge Gonzaga, who again got ahead of Johannes Hesterman, but he was helped by a bit of a spin for Al-Sarami and Ratinen as well. 2 drivers that, Ratinen crashing out a little bit earlier on in the race, but still helping those guys get further up the order. GP Allen in 14th, with Ratinen is obviously in 16th, and then finally it is Mats G in 17th, his debut to the top split, at least in this season, not ending the way he would have liked, unfortunately. I've got some interviews, JR, if you would like to drag in James Barry, a driver we always like to talk to on this broadcast.
Yeah, I was hoping we would see Jamie, so we'll go ahead and drag him in. James Barry, my goodness, what a drive. You had your hands full today, and first I want to congratulate you on squeaking back into P1 on the season. So you must feel pretty good about that movement here in week 4. James, are you there?
Hello. Wait, you can't hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now, James. What a fantastic race and a great show you put on with Sorensen. Tell us a little bit about your battle with him.
Yeah, I'll answer your first question because I did hear it. So yeah, I got some good more points for the season. It's been a really good season for me so far. Andreas, my teammate, has been the man to beat, to be honest, like in the officials in general, but he's been doing a lot of races, so he's been compromising his championship points, but he did really well today. And yeah, with Lasse, I was just following his slipstream. I was hoping he would drag us to Andreas to challenge for the win, but he wasn't able to, so I decided I'd go for the move at the end, and fortunately it wasn't too difficult in the end to get past.
Yeah, and really a fantastic race, and I'm being a broken record on this, but tell us a little bit about that bus stop. I did some laps today, and I was pretty happy with my Willie Schumacher. Like, I think I hit about a 141.5, but it's to get a good lap time. It is unavoidable to just bounce and bang across those curbs in the bus stop, and I'd imagine it must be quite stressful to have to do that 16 times in one of those races. So how did you handle that?
No, I'd say you have to take a really tight line. You have to go very close to the wall, and if you do that, then there's no risk of bouncing over the curb, whereas if you kind of do it half-heartedly, then you are going to bounce over the curb, and then you're in God's hands, basically, if you're going to bounce and then skid off into the wall. So you need to either go full send or just completely avoid the curb. But if you can get in the rhythm of going really close to the wall, then you're actually really safe. You're going to avoid that curb every time. So it's okay, actually, once you get the hang of it.
Oh, interesting. So you're saying it's flatter in between the curb and the wall on the entry to the bus stop there?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you need to be in that. There's a little kind of gap in between the bump in the curve and the wall where you just need to put your car every time. You go over the grass a little bit, and then you're safe.
Oh, excellent. Well, racing secrets of James Barry. Thank you for sharing that. And what a fantastic race. And it looks like we're looking at Imola next week. Speaking of bouncing over curbs, so what are your thoughts about that track?
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. I did my first practice run today, and it's a very difficult track. It's very different to this one. In this one, apart from the bus stop, it's a very smooth track, nice long corners, whereas Imola's, you've got to really hustle the car over the curbs there. So it's going to be interesting, and I don't know how I'm going to do, but look forward to the challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for coming by and speaking with us, James. We always appreciate hearing your insights, and fantastic drive today. And as we wrap up here, is there anyone you would like to thank or give a shout out to?
Just you guys as always for bringing these broadcasts. It's always really good to watch us back. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. It is absolutely our pleasure. And again, thanks for coming by. Appreciate talking to you, James.
Thank you. See you.
Yep. Take care. All right, folks, that is our season champion so far here in week 4, James Berry, and our P2 winner, our P2 placer here today at Watkins Glen. And I don't see anybody else waiting outside, so let me just run through the weekend with you here on Apex Racing TV. We are not just about these radicals. We've got some of the best cars, best tracks, and best esports drivers in the world 7 days a week here on our YouTube channel. So don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button so you don't miss any of the action. But tomorrow, Apex Racing Academy Formula 4 will be at Hockenheim, and then on Sunday, our Ray Esports event, Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors at Brands Hatch over in the UK. And on Monday, we'll start the week off strong with the Rick Matek Touring Car Cup at Summit Point. So stick with us here on Apex Racing TV for the best racing on the internet. And Tom, wow, what a fantastic race. And any thoughts looking forward to, as I mentioned to James Berry, getting around Imola with 4 wheels on the ground is pretty much impossible. So what are you looking forward to for next week?
Well, more of the same. Hopefully the curbs behave themselves this time. But that was quite an interesting race, and I'm very happy that I was here in the booth with you for it, JR.
Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. Okay, folks. Well, that is going to wrap it up for us here today. So J.R. Gregory here for Tom Dillon and Joshua Wilkie, wishing you a happy Friday. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a fantastic weekend.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.